Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is going to be a quick one. I want to actually go over a thought and a topic that I was listening to on a different podcast, but I want to break it down in a different way in today's episode. So, to give you a little background, I was listening to an episode earlier on in the week, probably around Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember which day because the week was so freaking long. Penelope had RSV this week. And so I was listening to this podcast episode, and the person who hosts that show was talking about having a breakthrough in your business in 2024. So, literally no other breakthrough you've ever had in business or even in your finances ever in your life. And of course, breakthroughs do play a bit of a role in your money and your finances, because when you do have those breakthroughs, you typically tend to level up in terms of your income. And when you level up in terms of your income, then you also have to level up in terms of your money mindset, in terms of your, personal income, your personal finances, your own spending, your expenses, your business's spending, your business's expenses, right? So there's a whole slew of things that come with that breakthrough in terms of money. And they were talking about this one topic about commitment to building a business. And I actually think it was really interesting. And the way that they broke it down was not really what I had anticipated, but I actually am really glad that they didn't break it down too far and they didn't really go too deep into it, because I really want to try and do that in this episode. So more or less what they were saying was that when you decide that you're going to open a business, when you're going to start a business online, then typically what ends up happening is you go along and you create a course, you create a digital product, you create a program, you create a coaching service, and you put it out there on your stories, you put it in your posts, right? Like, you're talking about it. And the big thing that people do is a live launch. And that's kind of what is taught in the online arena, to do a live launch. And so he was talking about, you start doing this live launch, and then you do the live launch for however long it is, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then all of a sudden, when you're done launching, you have 2 signups, and you kind of turn and you look at yourself and you're like, I thought I was going to get more than 2. Or, you're like, not necessarily depressed about it, right? But you're like defeated. You're at a loss, because all of this work and all of this marketing and all of this talking that you put into it, you turn around and you look at what you've done and you say to yourself, well, I only have 2, or I only got 2, or you only got 1 in some cases. There have been people that I've heard who only get 1 sign up. And I've heard actually this talked about on his podcast, and even one of my friends was talking about how in early of 2023, she had launched her program and she only had 2 signups as well. And there is a difference that I want to really outline and highlight in this episode, where when you show up and you are building a business, like, that you want a business, even if you have 2 signups, you continue on, you persevere on, because it's 2 out of 200, right? It's not, 200 didn't sign up at first, I'm going to toss in the towel, right? Like, you're like, okay, the next one I'm going to get 4, and then the next one I'm going to get 8, and then the next one I'm going to get 16. It's growth. It's growth over time. And what I think a lot of people online often think is that they're going to get 200 people right off the bat, because that's kind of what's expected when you go viral, or when you have a big audience, or when you have this, or you have this many people clicking your emails or on your email list. And that's not how it works. And I had this conversation not that long ago myself, because I've pivoted into a different direction. I was in content and content marketing for the longest time, social media. And before that, I was in notes and organization. And those 2 things were never really quite aligned. And they never really were quite as where I could see myself investing my energy and getting a return. But now I'm going in this direction of like personal finance and business and making money and money mindset. And I fucking love it. Like, I fucking love it. And I had a conversation, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago now, with my partner Tommy. And I was like, I was really concerned because I'm going in this different direction. And I'm like, I only have this many people signed up for my wait list. And he was like, okay. And I was like, well, my goal is to have this many people impacted. Like, I want to serve this many people. And he's like, okay, so you keep going. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have them now. He's like, so what? You get them. It takes time. You're not going to have that many people overnight, are you? I was like, well, I feel like I get that many people overnight when one of my TikTok videos goes viral. And he's like, okay, but does that happen when it comes time to like sell something and go on a launch and create a course or create a program or create a product or whatever? I was like, well, no. He's like, so what makes you think it's going to be the same? I was like, I don't know. Just because I'm so used to having people like just sign up and just be ready and just do this. And he's like, yeah, but that stuff is for free. He was like, so basically I'm going to reference back to what happened in December and January. I had a video on my TikTok, my new TikTok for personal finance and for debt payoff and financial freedom, go viral. It hit like 120,000 views. And the biggest thing that happened out of that video was that I got probably about upwards of 860 signups onto my email list, which was awesome. So I'm used to seeing that many people come in, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that out of 860 people that many people are going to buy, right? Like, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. And for me to get the amount of people who are on my wait list onto my wait list in such a short amount of time, I should really be celebrating, because none of these people know me. I just pivoted into this new direction, this financial direction, in December. And even in December, I wouldn't even say that I pivoted into finance. I kind of just decided to start new accounts on Instagram and TikTok in December. And if you go back to my first couple of videos, I originally wanted to go into digital products because I had experience selling a $2 digital product. I sold about 3,000 $2 digital downloads back in March of 2021. And so my original intention was to go in a digital products kind of direction. And more or less, I wound up talking about money one day, and it just kind of turned into this, steamroll of a topic where I just so happened to go over my spreadsheet at the end of December and see that I paid off over $25,000. And I just so happened to be wrapping up Accounting Principles 1 at the local county college. And I just so happened to be training for a role in my 9 to 5 where I was going to be taking on a lot of financial responsibility. And it just it was so happenstance. And it's funny because I have said for a while now, since I got into the accounting class, that this is my direction. Like, every door kept opening up in the finance direction. And when this video went viral and it was about money, I was like, I think this is the universe telling me that I should be going in the direction of money. And so I decided to do that. And it's been really fast. It's only been 2 months. Like, if I really look at it, it's been 10 weeks total that I've been talking about debt and personal finance. And if you were to listen to all of my other episodes, from earlier on in July and August and September of this podcast, not every episode was about money. Not every episode had to do with finance. Obviously the more or less the topic at hand is business. However, when I was originally creating this podcast, I was actually going in the direction of content because people kept telling me to go in that direction. And you have proof and you have evidence, and you grew YouTube. You grew 2 TikToks, you grew, all these different social media accounts. I was like, yeah, okay, I've done that, but that's not, like, I wasn't behind it. And like, I am behind finance, right? And so there's a very long story, obviously, but when I was talking to Tommy about it, I was like, I only have this many signups. And he's like, okay, and would you go into your debt payoff journey like that? I was like, well, no. And he was like, it's every day is a different day. Every step, every payment is a chip away at your debt, right? So what's the difference between that and this many people on your wait list? And I was like, oh my God, like he's right. And they were talking about that in that podcast episode, that when you go to start a business and you have your first live launch and you don't get the results that you know that you want to ask, like you know that you want to receive, then that means that like you're not really invested in the business. You're not really ready to be a business owner. Like you're not in it to be in business. Like you're in it because you're looking for a quick win to be done. And that's not how businesses work. Businesses are there for the long haul. I look at my family's business and they've been around since the Great Depression. Like they've been around over 100 years. And that is the reason why that they're making the amount of money that they're making today, because I can tell you for sure they weren't making this money back in the Great Depression. So it takes time and it takes patience and it takes effort. And sure, okay, I could turn around and say, well, I've been doing this for 4 years, but if you really think about it, I've pivoted 3 times in the last 4 years, and I really haven't stuck with something, and my energy really hasn't been behind any of the other topics like they are for this one. Like all those other areas, I was kind of like force fed those areas. Like people told me, oh, well, you're good at this, so you should do it. Okay. Oh, well, you did this, so you should do it. Okay. Now I'm actually truly, genuinely interested in something. I could talk about money. I could talk about finance. I could talk about debt. I could talk about money mindset. I could talk about accounting all damn fucking day. And I love it. And I could see myself doing this for years to come. And I know that there are people who have asked me like, oh, what's the plan? And I have like a 10-year plan. And I plan on going into CFO services once I've gotten my CPA and my MBA. And sure, maybe I don't need them, but I also really enjoy doing my business's taxes. I really do. I know that it sounds so dry and I know that it sounds so fucking boring, but I think it's like a puzzle. And I love putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And I think that when you go to build your business, when you go to market your business, launch any of your programs, courses, coaching, whatever, that is the energy that you need to come from, where even if 2 people sign up, you continue going on. You continue forging the path forward because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are meant for this work. And so often I've heard that this week that I felt like it was so necessary to put into this episode, because not only did I hear it in that podcast episode, I heard it from another great friend and mentor who literally started her year last year with 2 signups. She made her way to 5. And then in the beginning of this year, her entire business like took off, like 13 signups, basically a filled out program in a month, in 1 month. But she set the foundations all of 2023. And that's the difference. When you first launch a program, you don't have the whole foundation set. It's like you're piecemealing it. You're putting it together as you're working it, right? And the idea is that you want to have it built out and systematized and easily accessible and done so that all you have to worry about at one point is just selling it and marketing it. And that's it. So I want to really hit that home on this episode. And I want to thank you for tuning in. Thursday's, I don't know, whatever the next day's episode, I'm sure we will talk soon. And if you wouldn't mind just taking 30 seconds to leave a review and to rate the podcast, it really does help in terms of getting the podcast recommended to other newer audiences. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.